What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. It's been about a week now of Pokopia frenzy online, but now we seem to have some actual sales data. This, though, coming directly from Nintendo, giving us an idea as to where it sits immediately out of the gate against other Pokemon spin-off games, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Microsoft visiting GDC with an entire keynote presentation discussing the future with Project Helix, and how you can take advantage of some of this stuff as soon as next month. And we'll also be talking about the Steam Machine, as it also made an appearance at GDC, and Valve at least let us in on what exactly it means to be Steam Machine verified. All of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Star Wars First Assault. This is a game that was canceled alongside of Star Wars 1313 back in 2012, 2013, when Disney came in and bought the Star Wars franchise and LucasArts. Is a whole thing back then. But now it seems that this game has actually been revived by fans to the point where you can play it online. Yeah, so there's entire footage of people playing it, and right now it does appear that in their Discord, they're at least sharing on how to do that, but it appears to be running through a Xenia or just Xbox 360 emulator and be able to connect to the internet to play it. But right now, performance is kind of weird. You have to play around with the settings and stuff, but otherwise, when you get it working, it does work. And this is kind of a precursor to Battlefront, the revived Battlefront that they did when they rebooted that. And you can certainly see it there. I think right now it's 2-on-2 for a lot of the online gameplay, but there's bots running around and stuff, and it looks very Battlefront-esque. Go figure. It was canceled. Eventually, we got the Battlefront, again, revival, reboot, and they were off and running from there. But really, really cool to see this at least make an appearance. I'm still so interested in Star Wars 1313, but at least we got one of the two canceled games from back then revived on PC. So if you want to go through all the hoops and stuff to figure out how to make it work, you can. That's all in their Discord. You can check it out. Also, we have an update for Sony and their dynamic pricing, as previously it was reported that it wasn't happening in the US. Not the case any longer. We can see this. Now, this is an update to PS Price's original report for March 2026, saying it's no longer the case the US still isn't participating. In early March 2026, discovered that Sony had included PlayStation's largest market, the US, in the pricing experiment. 189 games in the experiment in the US, and in fact, the discounts so far in the US are significantly steeper than in Europe, with up to 27.8% on something like Helldivers 2, 24.4% on The Last of Us Part 1. And here's the thing, it's as we can see, even affecting first-party games, as mentioned there, but also Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, Gran Turismo 7. They say Japan remains the only major market that is not included. It's just Sony is testing this stuff out, trying to see what they can do to bring more people on board, along with customer retention. Maybe occasionally they do throw you a better deal than someone else, but it's all over the place right now. And from what I see online, people are just comparing notes for what deals, what discounts they're seeing versus others, and it's just It's quite frustrating, obviously, if you're getting worse deals than others, but I guess if you're getting better deals, you're probably happy. So the whole dynamic pricing thing is more frustrating in the sense that it's a lot of control for platform holders in an all-digital future that we're speeding towards right now. Oh, and we have something else to look forward to here for video game fans and LEGO fans. As you can see, now this is over on Instagram for Lego Minecraft Goat, who is known to actually leak out all kinds of LEGO products early, and in this case, it's the PlayStation 1. Yeah, so this would be $160. I don't know how to tell you guys, Legos are expensive. It's just kind of how it is, but it is almost 2,000 pieces coming in at $1,911. And it's set up for a December retail release. So I guess just the PS1 console, you'll build it with one controller. The thing I'm curious about, what game would go inside? 'Cause you feel like you pop it open, there'll at least be some kind of Easter egg in there. Just a game that you'd pop in, a disc that I guess you make out of Legos. That's my assumption. What game would you put in the PS1? When I think back on the old days of the original PlayStation, I think of Crash Bandicoot immediately. Him outside yelling with the megaphone at Nintendo's headquarters. Don't know if they can do that here, because technically that's with Activision, Blizzard, and Microsoft. But I mean, let me know, I guess, what you put. Gran Turismo? There are many titles, of course, people think back on. Just try to think about what Sony would have access to when they partner with LEGO to make a PlayStation 1 system. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Pokopia, which has been absolutely insane online. So many people buying, playing the game, sharing on social media, and right now it seems to be a legitimate system seller for the Switch 2, as many people are kind of mulling over the idea of, is it finally time to buy the $450 system so I can play Pokopia? Seems like that's the case for many people out there who have been kind of on the fence. We'll know more though when we get sales data for March, say from the NPD or Nintendo themselves when they put out their financial statement for the entire fiscal year, actually. All of that will be happening in like the first week or so of May. But for now, they wanted to let everyone know how Pokopia is selling because, go figure, it's selling well. Now we can see this. This is over on Nintendo's website. They issued this again last night saying the Pokemon Company and Nintendo announced today that global sales of Pokemon Pokopia for the Nintendo Switch 2 system have surpassed 2.2 million units. That includes, according to them, 1 million of those sold are in Japan. That's in the first 4 days since its worldwide launch on March 5th, 2026. That's pretty fast. 2.2 million units. Now that would be more than a 10% attach rate to the current install size for the Switch 2. It is shy of what Pokemon Legends ZA did on the Switch 2, but remember guys, this is a spin-off Pokemon game that frankly, leading up to its release, kind of weird looking. I mean, look, I was even on the fence. I see the review scores, I go out, I pick it up, and we've been having a blast. Me and like the kids and stuff, just a blast playing this game right now. And there are some legitimate moments in this game that are kind of catching me off guard. It's a darker game than I was expecting. I will say that with some of the backstory and notes that I'm finding and stuff, and legitimate mystery for the storyline that's unfolding right now. It's pretty cool surprises though. But okay, 2.2 million units in the first 4 days. How does that stack up to other spin-off Pokemon games? And spin-off Pokemon games is used kind of loosely. People will throw like the Legend series in there, but according to the Pokemon Company, those are not spin-off titles. So let's see. Joe Merrick actually has a nice little lineup here of all the spin-off games with their lifetime sales. Very important to note that. And you can see Pokopia is already at 2.2 million units in 4 days. Like dead center of it. Okay, so it's above Pokken Tournament DX, right below Pokemon Ranger Shadows of Almia. All right, but then all the way at the top, Mystery Dungeon Red and Blue. I think that's if you combine the GBA and DS versions. 5.85 million sold. And then Pokemon Stadium, 5.46 million. People forget. Guys, think about Pokemon Stadium. And look, Pokemon Pinball, one of the GOATs, 5.13 million. People forget that time period when Pokemon Stadium came out. We had never seen the Pokemon in that 3D format. It was always just on our Game Boy screens. It was mind-blowing when Stadium came out. So even though the Nintendo 64 didn't exactly go crazy in terms of number of systems sold, dude, everyone was getting Pokemon Stadium. I mean, that was it. You had to transfer your Pokemon from Red and Blue into Stadium and see them in full 3D for the first time. The mini games were awesome. So the fact that, yes, here comes Pokopia, and it's rolling up to almost half of Pokemon Stadium's lifetime sales, and it's done that in 4 days. I mean, look, Pokopia is going to top this this list of sales for spin-off games, I think by quite a margin when it's all said and done. This is at the beginning, if you think about it, of the Switch 2's life, its generation. So Pokopia is going to be selling for a long time, and it seems like investors are realizing this as well, because if you look at Nintendo's chart for stocks, it took quite a jump, and it's been actually climbing each day, it looks like, and just over the last 5 days, it's up more than 17%. This is the system seller that many investors were kind of asking for. They're like, hey, where is the big game, the big holiday game? I still think there's one out there, and yes, it could be a 3D Mario, but Pokopia, I think that's going to do pretty well at the holidays. Like I do. People will buy a Switch 2 system along with Pokopia, and it'll be a very good general audience game. One that I think will be selling for quite a while. Like, this is going to be a game that I think we're going to see it consistently on sales charts, definitely in Japan. But just over several years now, we're going to see, okay, it sold another couple hundred thousand, and all of a sudden we look and it's, oh, wow, it's crossed 15 million. It's up to 20 million. I do think this could be that kind of game. So right now at 2.2 million, I saw some go, oh, it felt like it should have been more than that. Well, we do know that Nintendo didn't seem to ship many copies out there as it was selling out. So I think they did underestimate how many copies they needed for supply versus the amount of demand that came in. But, I'll be interested in seeing, as we will have those Famitsu sales charts go out today, the digital physical ratio should be something we can kind of figure out here. If 1 million copies sold in Japan, Famitsu's going to report physical sales, so we'll be able to at least get an idea as the digital ratio for it when we get those numbers released again later on today. So impressive stuff, I think, for Pokopia. Clearly for Koei Tecmo, they've got to be like floored right now. And Omega Force. Yeah, I know, Dragon Quest Builders 2, good game. This has Pokemon. What are you going to do? So if anything, this will probably end up being the best selling game for Koei Tecmo outright as we go along here. But yeah, Pokopia, look out. It's going to have, I think, a big holiday season coming up, but just in general, a big generation coming up with the Switch 2 for it. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft at GDC, as they did have a lot to say about Project Helix, which is their next generation Xbox, but also next generation ecosystem. And they said quite a bit for developers. Obviously, GDC, it's for developers, that's the idea. But even so, it does look like Microsoft is going all out when it comes down to unifying everything from Xbox to Windows and making it so you develop one game just across the board for what's a number of different platforms then. But they did also mention backwards compatibility, and this could be quite interesting. Okay, let's start at the top here. There was an entire press release that was put out over on their news website, but I'll kind of go over some of the obvious bullet points that they really want people to pay attention to. All right, so starting at the top here, it is powered by a custom AMD SoC system on a chip for the next generation of DirectX and FSR, so it will be utilizing a next generation upscaling FSR from AMD, and that's expected. We figured both companies, Sony and Microsoft, in collaboration with AMD, would be working towards just better and better upscaling techniques and also utilizing machine learning, neural networks. All of that will be playing into this next generation for Microsoft and, of course, Sony. Big leap, though, in ray tracing performance. And that's something that Sony is also doing here. And again, they're both kind of just following along with AMD for that, as I think the idea eventually will be, you don't really think about ray tracing. For us, like, how we'll turn it off in many games because the performance hit is it's just not really worth it for us. We'd rather have 60, 100, 144 frames or something, let's say, if you're on a high refresh monitor on PC, than to have things look really nice at this 50 or 60-ish frames. It's not really worth it, right? So I think the idea eventually is ray tracing is just almost a default option for developers to utilize. So the game can be built from the ground up, knowing that ray tracing will be there, and it's something they can apply without having to worry too much about just tanking their frame rate. All right, so that'll be kind of cool, just see what games can do, building with that in mind. But then the other big thing, frame generation. All right, so this is something that video cards are already utilizing, and it can be kind of frustrating for people if you have frame generation turned up too much. You do introduce certain input latency, but it being built in, say, more for ground level with a console, and they have it at least somewhat optimized. I do wonder if we can see games maybe closer to 4K 120 with frame generation being used in the background. How much will that affect input latency? That's the big question I would have for them now, but I would expect ray tracing and frame generation to be two big pillars going into the PlayStation 6 and this Project Helix. I did mention before that development for Helix and PC will be more unified for developers, and Microsoft really honed in on this point. They had entire slides there trying to visualize it a bit more, old versus new. And this is something that I think is very important, is the development process needs to get easier, it needs to get quicker. Like we hear about how long it takes to make games, and part of that is the process of going back and forth with the platform holder, lot check, getting things with bugs and checked out. Like there's so much stuff that goes on beyond just let's make a game. Are they using automated AI systems? I mean, probably, let's be real, that's just kind of the future I think we're heading towards. But if it works out, I mean, this could hopefully make things a bit faster when it comes to getting games out to gamers. All right. Now, here's the thing where I started to, I looked at this and hold on a minute. This could be interesting. Xbox mode. All right. So this brings full screen and controller optimized Xbox experience to PC. So I'm kind of thinking we have this with the ROG Ally X right now, and that's fine. It has some sticking points and issues, but this I feel like would be what they really learned and built from having the ROG Xbox Ally X out there. And this is going to be released next month in April. They're going to start rolling it out in different territories for Windows users. And you know how it goes with Windows users. They try to figure out ways to get it activated on theirs early if it's not out in their territory. So I basically think next month we're going to see ways to set it up on your system, or Microsoft just kind of puts it out there for insiders or anything else. And I'm kind of picturing Steam Big Picture sort of for Windows PCs. I'm interested in putting together a decent enough Windows PC in a smaller box form factor and see if it will act like an Xbox. The big hangup I still have with a Windows PC acting like an Xbox, turning it on reliably with the controller, like across the board, because that's still something I will say. It sounds like a small thing. It's very convenient, right? And it's something that I feel like most people tied to consoles in their mind. Pick up a controller, press the Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo Home button, and boom, it turns on. I'd like to see that solved, just outright by Microsoft. Game preservation, though, check this out. The team will be releasing iconic games from the past later this year. So, with Xbox mode on PC, this sounds like we'll be able to play Xbox Original, Xbox 360, Xbox One games on your PC with this Xbox mode. And this is the exciting part about bringing all of this together under Windows. Yeah, you'll be able to play these games, I assume, through emulation. It's going to be an emulation layer that probably fires up in the background as you start the game. But being able to play all these games in one spot, maybe just a better performance because of this, and it being utilized right there on your desktop for Windows, that would be amazing. Now, I'm still curious about how that's going to work out when it comes to licensing, and there's all kinds of rights issues that we've seen, having issues with backwards compatibility just on the Xbox alone. But if they can get our entire library that is right now existing on Xbox, but also working on PC, that would be actually pretty impressive. Okay. They're going to be shipping alpha versions of the hardware to developers beginning in 2027, which has led to the thought process that the Project Helix would be coming out in 2028. Actually, this would kind of follow along with the Xbox Series, where those development kits went out is like second quarter of 2020, so close to summertime. And then the system still launched holiday 2020. Obviously, the system wasn't ready alongside the games. We know. We went through that whole thing with Halo, but it still matches up right now with that timeline. So I'm expecting this Project Helix, the next Xbox, to come out holiday 2027. And I'm kind of expecting the PlayStation 6 to do that as well, since there's information going around right now of them targeting that and it's on track. We'll talk more about that maybe tomorrow, but get ready. Next generation. Sounds like it's about a year and a half away, which means we're about a year away from kicking off 2027 with all kinds of news around the PS6 and Project Helix, exactly what form that's going to take. So that'll be interesting. But hey, on the PC side, big things happening here with Microsoft and the Xbox brand. And in our last bit of news, let's talk a bit about the Steam Machine, as we did have some information as to what it means to be Steam Machine verified. The Steam Deck can be Steam Deck verified with different games. Doesn't mean it's going to run at 60 frames per second, nothing like that. But it does mean that you're going to have a pretty, I'd say, seamless experience with the game, as in you're going to start it up and it's going to function kind of like a little handheld console then. Well, here we can see a graphic, and this was over at GDC shared by Tom's Hardware, Steam Machine verified, and they have many different tests or things that it has to go through here to be verified, playable, or unsupported. And according to them, on the performance side, 1080p 30 FPS means that it will be verified. Okay, and I don't know if that's what people necessarily want to hear, because that will be kind of difficult to go through and say, okay, what is this machine capable of? Because, I mean, especially even now on consoles, think about it with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, many games do at least get close to 60 frames per second. There's usually a performance mode. So the Steam Machine, the one thing I was a bit concerned about with it is it would feel like it's slower or less capable than the current consoles that were more than 5 years now into the generation. Now, the trade-off, obviously, is more control around the device because it's going to be SteamOS based, so you have a desktop mode, and obviously a massive library of games on Steam, emulators, sure. But the issue I think they could be running into is, what's the price of this versus the performance versus, oh yeah, here's also Project Helix that's coming up that probably will be more expensive, but also significantly more capable. Valve just seems to be in a very strange position right now. honestly, because the market kind of gave out on RAM prices and DRAM and even SSDs now, just as they were ready to ship this thing. So it's really gonna come down to pricing. Where does this sit? If it's $500, I'll say, you know what? Hey, it's still pretty good there, all right? But if it's $700 or more, man, that's going to be tough for Valve. So that's where I am now. We got to see the price point. We got to see the release date, because I think they have to get this thing out somewhat soon, especially if Microsoft is targeting holiday 2027, even alongside Sony with their PlayStation 6. The Steam machine could start looking pretty old pretty quick if that's the case. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you interested in playing older, so Xbox 360, Xbox One games through backwards compatibility on your PC? 63%, wow, say yes. 19% say no, and then 18% say I don't have a gaming PC. You know, the other interesting thing about this, if Microsoft really can pull this off, you might be able to make a lower cost system depending on system requirements for the emulation process or the emulation layer that they use for playing Xbox 360 games, original Xbox games. That would be kind of fun to put one together that not necessarily going to play the brand new, latest, greatest, whatever games, but if you want to play some of those older backwards compatible titles, I'd be interested to see where we could end up, where we could land when it comes to pricing around that. So that's something else I really want to look into. I'd like a mini, people call it for an Xbox original classic console. You might be able to make one. It's just going to come down to the price point. So I got some of those mini PCs at the ready, and we'll see what Microsoft has for us. Maybe later this year, I guess, according to them, for the 25th anniversary of Xbox, and maybe backwards compatible Xbox 360 games on Windows. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Zach, who says, inflating the price on a digital good is crazy. This has been a talking point for a while. It's like, why are digital games the same price as physical games? Well, I'll tell you, as someone who did run multiple stores back in the day, I was happy that the digital copies were the same cost as the physical copies, because that would have been very problematic. And I think still that's kind of the reason why, is to have price parity with retail stores. But also, we've kind of gotten used to the idea, many people have, obviously, with digital sales, of a $70 game just being a $70 game no matter how you buy it, whether you get a physical good or you're buying it digitally, which is still strange to me, because clearly it costs more money to ship out a Blu-ray disc that can hold 100 gigabytes, we'll say, on the PlayStation 5, with a case and cover art and the whole thing. Sometimes a steelbook case. But that's the thing. It's just, eventually we get to the point where it really is just all digital that they're selling, and the price is still going to say, you know, the price will actually go up probably. Let's face it, $80 games, it's not something that's even really been attempted much at all since Mario Kart World. You gotta feel like the market will eventually try to push it again, whether it's with GTA 6 or with the launch of, say, the PlayStation 6, as the PS5 is really what pushed us into $70 territory. I think it's coming eventually, and it's gonna look really weird when it's like, oh yeah, we've moved to all digital now, so don't have to worry about shipping out discs or logistics around any of that. But the price is going up $10. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here on a card. Or maybe you wanted to hear about how I was absolutely wrong about Pokopia. I was overlooking it somewhat. Then I picked the game up and try it out, and well, I'll let you see the rest of that in the video right below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.